Hey, what is up, guys? So, we decided to try out a new idea for locals. So, instead of investing lots and lots of money into playing Fire Nation deck, we decided to play what I would debatably say is the anti to that, and it is Heroes. Um, this is a list that I've been working on for about 4 weeks. We've gone back to the original version of it, what I played in the first 2 weeks, because the following 2 weeks was filled with lots and lots of bricking, which Heroes is kind of known for. There was just too many heroes in the deck, basically, to put it bluntly. Too many cards that require heroes to do something with, and if you don't have access to poly, they're all just dead cards. We are going backwards and forwards still on some design ideas for it, but the deck kind of just functions all right. The matchups were pretty okay, except for the ones where we bricked really badly. We'll go into those later on because TJ, you do know one of those matchups where it was Baron control for you, and it was top decking for both of us.
For a gaming cafe, we offer a safe and free-to-use space for anyone to come and geek out. When I was younger growing up, there was nowhere you could go and be a geek. You were frowned upon being a geek. You hide the fact you were a geek. And now I think being a geek is something you should be proud of. And there should be a place where you can come and say, hey, I'm a geek. We've only been open 6 months, but
anyways, into the list we go. So we play the 2 elemental hero Stratos. We don't play any more Stratos because it doesn't matter after a certain point, because since we don't play that many heroes that have different names, we have access to loads of them in the form of Fusion Destiny, A Hero Lives, so it just gives access to whatever we need. The popping of background does actually come up because most people actually forget that it does that. So the amount of times where I've just outed free stuff for free. Then we play the 3 Faris and the 1 Increase. We don't play multiple Increase because the reason why you'd play multiple Increase is to deal with the issue of if you draw one, you can still use your Faris plays, but with the version that I've sort of been tweaking with, it doesn't really matter. Yes, it is good for this being a starter by being still in your deck, but you can still kind of make it work because with the Hero Lives and the other packages that are in it, you still have access to the stuff. Fair enough, you kind of lose out on that one additional extender that you want, but it's not really the end of the world sort of thing. And the fact that, yes, I read this card for once in my life, it puts itself in your spawn trap cards and when you take damage. I used this when my opponent Dragooned and then blew something up, so we went this so that we could try and live. So that was a good idea. And then for the Vision Heroes, we play the double Vion. We don't need any more than 2. If you open it, it's not that bad. The amount of people that have ashed the first effect of this to send, and then I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll add poly and we'll just keep playing anyways. Don't ash this. You impermanent. It's a smarter play. Then the Elemental Hero Neos, you have to play this because of the fusion in the extra deck. If you could play anything else but the Neos, it'd be great. There have been times where I have Fusion Destiny to send this off to the grave. It is great to just see like the reactions of players. We play the 1 Liquid Soldier. It doesn't really come up all too often. It's just there as additional drawing and reborn now and then, but beyond that, I don't really notice it half of the games. It's just there in case. 1 Shadow Mist, I've been playing this badly. We actually are supposed to summon this off Hero Lives at the start of the turn, and then we kind of go from there, or we summon it off Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. But what I've been doing is the stupid play of Miracle Fusioning in turn 2 to kill our opponent with Wake Up instead. But yeah, this just summons Darklaw. That's all it basically says. Such as Mass Change, makes Darklaw, you win. We play the 1 Obligatory Plasma. This has come up a few times. We played this against Labyrinth. They couldn't play around it. I don't know how, but Labyrinth just apparently can't play against a Plasma plus DPE. 1 Denier, you have to play this. It puts back your Maliciouses. I have used it once to put back the Plasma so then I can draw it off Liquid Soldier, but that is very, very rare and kind of a very bad play. Double Malicious, God, I wish this was at 3, because as much as I do like doing Denier to put stuff back, the fact that this card is once per game really does hurt my soul. And then the final monsters is just a Hand Traps of Droll. We were going to play Ash Blossom in it, but it doesn't really matter, does it, Ash? Because every time I've contemplated ashing my opponent, it's just if I had the draw, it would be better. And with the amount of decks that I just played at my locals, there's Flu, there's Heroes, there's loads of branded variants, there's loads of Runic variants where they feel comfortable to Runic in the main phase for some reason. This just puts in more work. Then for a board breaker that we love playing, we played the Triple Super Poly. We kind of love this card because the amount of times where our opponents just leave random stuff that we can make the Garura or the Mud Dragon with. Unfortunately, we don't play Fire Hero for Fire Hero target, even though that probably should be a card that we could contemplate playing later down the line. But for now, that's just how it is. We played the Triple Fusion Destiny. Yes, we like our Shadow Fusions. The only sad part that I keep forgetting is that I'm Darklocked with this, unfortunately, so it means that I can't do my usual play to get to the trap that is, well, I would say Miracle Fusion, but it returns the materials back to deck, so the good trap that basically makes us win anyways. And then from there we played the 3 Hero Lives. I read this card wrong when I first started playing it. It's only if I control. There was a point where I'd normal summoned a Stratos, completely forgetting that this was in my hand. My opponent Book of Mooned the well, not Book of Moon, but used the Flunder Trap to set the Stratos, and then I decided to read this a bit more carefully, thinking, how am I going to out this field now that I wasted my normal summon? And then realised, wait, we can Hero Lives because we have no face-up monsters anymore. Then we play the double mass change. We played 3 kind of bricked because we didn't need the third half of the time, and if you do the play correctly, which I have not been doing, you can make your wake up and then wake up summons the Shadow Mist from deck, and then you have access to this for later on. There's only really 3 targets anyway, so the only reason we play 3 of it is just to dodge imperm or effect veiler, but there's so much searching and there's so much consistency now in this that it doesn't really matter anymore. And then we play the double talents. This was the thing that I changed from the previous list because we previously played triple mass change. Talents I do kind of like because it gives me additional stuff. If I go second, it's a board breaker. If I go first, it's another card that I've ripped from your hand. So you're playing against my board with less resources, and it also lets me play around my opponent's resources because if they Ash or Droll me and then I talents and see that there's a nib or something like that, obviously I'll rip the nib, but if there's other things besides the nib, it lets me know what I need to play around at the time. Then the one Call by the Grave, we were originally not playing this because it didn't matter, but when we tweaked the list we realised that there is actually space to play it now. We play 1 Monster Reborn now. Now this is a back and forwards thing that I've had recently, but it actually does do stuff now, because 1, DPE is one of the few heroes that you can actually reborn from the grave. All the other heroes are kind of locked out from doing that. And 2, it's a weird DD Crow for spot removal, because if my opponent's got some stuff in the grave that, like the Promethean Princess, or they've got a Flamberge in grave, we can just summon this, summon their thing, and then just start punching them with it. And they have to out their own thing to be able to make it good. We play 1 poly as well. We don't need multiple, because multiple is bad, because we have cards that can search this to our hand, and we have cards that bring it back. 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Rota, these cards might as well be the same thing, because this adds a hero, this sends Shadow Mist that adds a hero. And then we play the 1 Miracle Fusion. I did contemplate playing this at 2, because the second kind of comes up, but then I realised that I was just playing the deck wrong, and if you make the link at the right point, you just have access to this again, so yeah, we don't need to play bad cards at multiple copies. And then finally for the traps, Triple Infinite Impermanence and Favourite Contact, which is the best card in this deck. I read this wrong so many times, where I thought it just fusion summoned the monster, and that was it. I did the standard Yu-Gi-Oh obligatory thing of assume what this card does based on what you see. But this special summons the card ignoring its summoning, but the monster is not summoned correctly. So it actually mattered in a game where my opponent made Dark Charmer to reborn the DPE, and then he couldn't reborn it, which was great. So yeah, that is actually. Then for the extra deck is just standard hero extra deck. One destroyer. I contemplate playing this at 2. I just need to find the space, and I also need to jump off a card docket to buy a second one. Your OTK enabler, again, read this wrong. It attacks multiple times for each fusion monster. I thought it was just regular monsters, so when I decided to flex on my opponent and got Miracle Fusion, banish half my graveyard, it only could attack 3 times. Didn't really matter because this was still attacking 3 times with the Force of God behind it. But yeah, it does that. Then one absolute zero. I very rarely summon this. Sometimes I summon it on favorite contact because that's how we get the water target there. But beyond that, it's not really something that I summon that often. There has been a point where, because there was flu at my locals, we super polyed to make this with one of their flu monsters, but it doesn't really come up that often. One of the best cards in the game. This is the new, well, not really new anymore, but this is the Neos Fusion that destroys, and when it's summoned off this, it becomes amazing. So when it's summoned off the trap, because you use Neos to summon it, it can't be returned back to the extra deck. So your opponent can't Nightmare Unicorn this away, which kind of sucks for them really, really badly. Also, this destroys equal to the number of different attributes on the field. It checks your opponent's field as well, which is kind of good. And it becomes a very, very huge after a certain point, because again, we're a hero player that doesn't read. We thought this gained attack for each hero. No, it gains attack for every monster in my grave. The best hero support card ever of Infernal Rage. This just basically tags out into your Sunrise half the time, and it also searches the trap card, so this is why this is the best hero now. One Sunrise, OTK enabler, and also searches Miracle Fusion. We play the one Blast. The only reason we play this is because we want our Stratos to resolve. So if our opponent wants to imperm us all that, we just mass change into this. Its bounce effect and its stuff for back row does come up now and then, but not that often. It's just a sometimes but not all the time sort of effect. Double Dark Law, we want to summon this over this, and also it's an OTK sort of enabler. If you have access to double mass change, then you can just start hitting your opponent for a lot of damage. And then for the final fusions, we have the super poly targets in regards to Garura and the Swamp Dragon and the Mud Dragon. So yeah, they're just super poly targets. That's really it. And then finally, the links that we play is one Infernal Divisor, one Wonder Driver, and Double Cross Crusader. I contemplate playing this at 3 now. Because it's one of those cards where it basically says Imperm or Veilimi, and it does kind of hurt when it happens, and we end up having to waste the second. We do end up wasting the second one sometimes. It's okay at 2 for now. Again, if I had space, we'd play at 3. This is amazing because this makes my opponent have to play around certain things, because this can set super poly. So this can set your Miracle Fusion and make you have access to certain plays later on in the game, which is kind of really good. And this is only here to search the Neos. I do think of playing the Link 3 because the amount of times where I've just had generic access to the Neos without making this, it just happens a lot, because since there's such a low count of heroes, you resolve really 2 of them and you kind of have access to your Neos and everything else that you need. So yeah. And then finally for the side deck, we play the one Dark Angel still. It shouldn't really come up, and this is more catered to my locals. It's more because there is Runic decks that still float around at my locals. Yes, there is Runic Bestial, and they just link this off to make an SP Little Knight. But if we have a Destroyer out, they're just basically wasting cards to get to the SP, which does kind of matter to certain decks. There is also branded variants where I just kind of gamble on the fact of them not having a way to remove this, or just not drawing a Bestial. And then this kind of just really just ruins their day. Then we play the double Ghost Sister. We play the double Ghost Bell because we don't need 3. Basically, we just don't need 3. Triple Nibiru, we don't really need this in the main. It's more of a side card, because if you go first, you kind of set up a board that pops enough cards to basically not need Nibiru. And sometimes it does hurt, because if your opponent does negate your DP in that, this kind of gets rid of your own stuff and hurts really, really badly. Then for the spells, triple Cosmic Cyclone. That's really, well, that's the only spell that we actually side. It's just more removal. I did contemplate playing the Twin Twisters at one point because we did have certain amounts of cards that could be discarded or be dead cards, but Twin is just not as good. The other reason I contemplate Twin is just my locals again, not really anywhere else. The double anti-spell fragrance, this I probably should play at 3. I just can't find my third and I can't be arsed looking for it. And then the triple evenly matched. You go second, you activate this. It is better than Lightning Storm that I've come to find. That's really it. That is the deck in a nutshell. There isn't really much that I would change in it. We originally were playing the Mass Change at 3. We did play an Evil Hero engine at one point where we were playing a Dusted Gold and Dark Calling to make Malicious Bane, but Malicious Bane just didn't come up as often. It only came up once when my opponent summoned a Dragoon, and we thought it was a good idea to make the Bane to just crash into the Dragoon, but it didn't really matter all too much. The only thing that I contemplate changing is probably the hand trap lineup, but that's just how this format is, where you just play a certain level of hand traps to think of what breaks the boards, which I think Imperm, Super Poly, and Droll do enough. Especially if you have access to Plasma as well. Going second, Heroes falls under one of the most difficult sorts of things of you have to play very, very carefully to out most of the boards, because once you start losing resources, you really do start losing them, and the amount of times where I have summoned this and keep forgetting to add the poly, and then 3 or 4 moves later, wondering where my polymerization is, and then having to waste resources to make it again. But that's just me being a bad hero player. But beyond that, it did well. It performed as well as it should. A lot of the things that I got wrong in it were just because I didn't think about it at the time, or just bricked. There were very few games where it was the case of back and forth and I got outdone by my opponent. One matchup I got Secret Village twice, so heroes can't play under Secret Village. One of my other matchups, it was kind of terrible. To put it in a nutshell, my opponent makes Baron and sets an Imperm, passes to me. I summon Faris, he negates with Baron, goes back to him, he hits me with the Baron because he has nothing, comes back to me, I normal Stratos, he Imperms the Stratos. Unfortunately we didn't have the mass change, goes back to him, Baron pop, Baron attack, and that's how the game ended. It was great, wasn't it, TJ? It was just absolutely amazing. But besides that, yeah, that is Heroes in a nutshell. Hopefully I should have some replays of it coming up in the next couple of days, but this is what I will be playing along with Salamangreat for the rest of this format, because Salad is a good fire deck that still exists, and Heroes is just one of those decks where if your opponent doesn't know how it works, you can cheese out free wins, and Dark Lore is just amazing no matter what format it is. So thanks guys anyways. I hope to hear some feedback on it, as well as not just with the deck, just with the audio, the video qualities, things like that. All feedback is appreciated, and I'll be signing out. Peace.